dedicated.
I see. I don't have her.
Thank you. Dedicated to shining a light on issues in New Hampshire as far as justice for family matters. Whether it's the New Hampshire Family Court or the Division for Children, Youth and Families, the Sununu Youth Development Center, or various contractors, attorneys, and other entities involved in the child welfare and justice systems in New Hampshire. We have a lot of problems, even at the legislative level, judicial level, all three branches, and it seems that redress is very hard to find for families and the children that they're fighting for. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the microphone to our member and our board chaplain. His name is Dennis Cowing. He's been a minister for 20 years. He's a former assistant pastor and director of pastoral care. He's a recovery advocate, and again, the board chaplain for us. He also calls himself an old fart. He worked for health care for the homeless, or worked with them. And as a pastor, he says that his heart is to help heal the brokenhearted.
Amen.
Welcome, Dennis Cowing.
Thank you, Leah. Well, because my mind isn't what it used to be, I wrote a few things down. First of all, I just want to welcome everybody here today to our second annual. Oh, you want me to face this way?
Just stand between the speakers, that's all.
Just don't stand in front of the speakers, yeah, somewhere in the middle.
See, I can still learn new things. Okay, well, anyway. So some people may want to know who we are, so I'm going to just, you'll probably hear this several times, but I thought I'd let you know anyway. New Hampshire Family Justice is a dedicated, nonprofit organization committed to advocacy to safeguard children, families, defend constitutional rights and due process, and demand accountability, efficiency, and transparency in our state child and family systems. And we have a mandate from God, as we find in Proverbs 31, verses 8 and 9, which tells us that we are to speak for those who cannot speak for themselves. Ensure justice for those being crushed. Yes, we speak up for the poor and the helpless and see that they get justice. Now, the poor and the helpless refers to people who are up against something that they have little or no power to overcome. And this refers to those who seek justice when facing a system that is stacked against them, a system that thrives on people's ignorance of that system and how it operates. New Hampshire Family Justice is here to come alongside those who are in this battle and help them walk through the process and obtain knowledge so that they may receive that justice. So let's pray, okay? Because he's the one who's going to help us through all of this. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we're able to gather together today in front of the State House. As Jesus said, where two or more are gathered together, you are in our midst. So we thank you for your presence in this place. And may this day be a day establishing new relationships, new friends, and a coming together for a common cause. May your peace fill every heart and mind here today, and in everything we do and say, may it bring glory to you and you alone. So we praise you, Father, and we thank you in Jesus' name. And everyone said, Amen. Okay, now, one more thing. I just want to, anybody out here who's going through a very difficult time right now, I want to assure you that God loves you. He cares about you, and he knows exactly what you're going through. So you are not alone. And so we trust in him and him alone to see us through these difficult times. He is the author of justice, and we can trust in him. And I'm just going to leave it with that. And so, Lord, we thank you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you for your service.
How do I win this? Okay. sound guy Alec, everybody. He is working, he's cooking with gas because we were locked out of the sound box and so our next up, we're going to have our director, Donald Gilbert, speak with us. He's worked alongside families across New Hampshire who have experienced firsthand the challenges, frustrations, and consequences of systems that too often lose sight of the people that they were created to serve. Who are these systems serving is a question we ask a lot. Through listening to those voices and examining the policies, practices, and institutions that shape outcomes for children and families, he has become a strong advocate for reform rooted in both accountability and hope. Today, he will introduce the mission of New Hampshire Family Justice and discuss some of the systemic and institutional failures that have contributed to the challenges facing New Hampshire's children, families, and victims. Please join me in welcoming the Executive Director of New Hampshire Family Justice, Donald Gilbert.
Thank you, everybody. So thank you for joining us on this beautiful but windy day. Better than last year in the downpouring rain. Again, this is our second annual family rally. So we are blessed to be here. So as we start off, good afternoon, New Hampshire. First, I want to thank Dennis for opening our prayer. And we are going to have Church of Another Chance and You Are the Power joining us later today to present as well. We are thankful for the work of our board members, our volunteers, and our speakers, every parent, grandparent, survivor, and advocate, and every citizen who joins us here today. My name is Donald Gilbert. I serve as the Executive Director of New Hampshire Family Justice. I also am on the advisory board for Church of Another Chance. New Hampshire Family Justice was founded upon a simple but urgent belief. Our system must protect children without the unnecessary destroying of families. They must serve victims without exploiting them. And they must respect due process rather than treating constitutional rights as an obstacle. And every public agency, contractor, attorney, advocate, institution entrusted with public money must remain accountable to the people it was created to serve. We are not here to oppose child protection. We are here because child protection must actually protect children. We are not here to oppose victim services. We are here because resources appropriated for victims must actually reach victims. We are not here to attack every public employee working inside a deeply troubled system. Many of the frontline workers are overwhelmed and undertrained, trapped within the policies and systems that were created to feed a different cause. We are here to confront the systems above them, the contracts, the funding decisions, the professional networks, the lobbying structures, the failures of the oversights that determine what services exist, who controls them, and whether anyone is held responsible for the failures of said services. For years, New Hampshire families have been told that the greater problem is the lack of money. That is just simply false. But when we follow that money, a different picture begins to emerge. From the problem, it's not simply how much money exists, but where the programs that money goes towards, and what it purchases, whether contractual promises are fulfilled, and why the public is so rarely shown measurable results. A budget is a moral document. A public contract is a promise. New Hampshire receives approximately $22 million in federal Title IV funding. These funds are supposed to support essential responsibilities for our children's welfare systems, including the foster care and adoptive assistance program, prevention of separation from a child from their family, reunification for that child back. Give us just a moment. Of children from their families, reunification of children with their families, recruiting and training of foster and adoptive homes, workforce development within YDC, DCYF and YDC for that matter, but and independent living skills for children 14 or older. Yet, when we reviewed these, DCYF's own 2025-2029 state plan funding schedule, fiscal year 2025, as outlined in their state report, approximately of that $22 million, only $1.3 million actually goes towards foster care. Zero goes towards the prevention of separation of children from their families. Zero goes towards reunifying children with their families. Zero goes towards training or recruiting of foster and adoptive families. And $0 is going towards the training and recruitment of DCYF workers. Zero is going towards the independent living services for young people age 14 or older who are preparing to leave the system with the system of care. Those figures demand a couple of complete public accountability. Show us where the $22 million was truly allocated. We have an idea. There's a $14 million lobby for IT that has gone on for years and years that has not done anything for the children's system. Show us the contractual obligations. Show us the obligations that were fulfilled. Show us how those expenditures directly benefit New Hampshire children and families. Of that $22 million, $3.7 million goes towards the Domestic Violence Coalition to prevent children being separated from their families, to train DCYF workers, and to put 14 full-time positions into the system of care to go ahead and train DCYF on a daily basis on prevention of separation, reunification, and prevention of abuse underneath the state care. Where is that fulfillment? So earlier this year, DCYF and the coalition both testified that that family violence prevention specialist position has a more than 50% vacancy for the last 10 years. Why have we been funding $2.8 million a year for something that they have been unfulfilling for a decade or more?
Right.
So of those 14 prevention specialists, this is what they're supposed to be. We pay for the full-time service, but what we're receiving is partial performance and a lack of enforcement of the contract. They are currently advertising on job sites for part-time positions for that, 20 hours a week for $40,000 a year. That doesn't make sense. Why? So those are 8 questions that we've asked earlier this year, and we will continue to ask. These contracts are involved with the responsibility of prevention training and response in abuse systems. They are also contracted for the Prison Rape Elimination Act, and with that, it is to prevent abuse and neglect within our residential facilities and our institutional cares. Yet, we see time and time again that their attorneys are the ones suing the state currently for YDC and all these other institutional abuses. Why? Where is the conflict of interest identified and held accountable for in our state? We don't see it.
Oh, they were already wet.
When New Hampshire continues to uncover the horrific abuse in the foster care, residential, and correctional settings, the former YDC, while prevention and training remains vacant, fragmented, and poorly measured, we have a duty to determine whether those contracts were fulfilled or not. And that is upon the state legislators to do that. We should not have to speculate whether the conflicts arise or whether they're accurate or true. We should have definitives. We should see the contracts between the attorneys and the contractors. We should see why the Attorney General's office and DCYF refer victims to the coalition, and yet the coalition then sends them to their attorneys to sue the state when they're contracted to prevent the abuse in the first place. So, with all that, this is not saying that we don't believe the victims. We do not believe that children are not abused. We know they are. But in the offset, those children that are truly abused are left in their abusive situations more time than not to continue to be abused. And a lot of times it's underneath DCYF's care and supervision, whether it's in a family home or in an institutional care, to continue. Now, this doesn't take away from our other focuses of total reform of the family court for child support and parent-on-parent conflicts regarding custody or divorce. But this is a core issue currently going on within our system of care, that we have identified the fabrication and building of a system to benefit a small minority of politicians and attorneys to go ahead and profit off from children and families in New Hampshire. That being said, the YDC settlement was $240 million paid out year to date over the last 2 years. $160 million of that has been paid directly to the attorneys, and the coalition being given a cut of that. Only $80 million out of 428 cases of a $240 million settlement has gone to a victim in those cases. There's something vastly wrong when you have more than 60% going towards the attorneys and less than 40% going to the actual person that endured the abuse. With the rain, I want to pass this along to our next speaker. I think at this time we're going to go ahead and push this over to Joe at this time because the next speaker is not here. But I do thank everybody for your time.
Well said. Thank you, Donald. So our next speaker is a father. He's a father and a member of our board. His name is Joe. His son was stolen from him and the rest of the paternal family due to an ongoing corruption that continues to be covered up in our state. The judge in his case recently resigned into early retirement to evade real inquiry into a pattern of conspiracy allegations and rights violations of epic proportion, which continue to be propped up in this building behind me and in the courtrooms around our state. Joe now serves as a volunteer with New Hampshire Family Justice, attempting to minimize the pain and suffering of others because of the pain that was inflicted through acts of corruption against him, his child, over 10 years, and his family, and they have been felt throughout his entire extended family for all of that time. So without further ado, I invite Joe to share with you.
Hey, Joe!
Thank you, everyone, and I'm grateful that the rain stopped for a little bit. I'd really like to thank all of you for coming out
For the rest of the
to
day.
this day. We're really happy that you're here. We're just not happy about the reason that we all have to be here on the lawn of our State House stairs. We'd love to be doing other things, enjoying the beautiful state that we live in, but we shouldn't be living under the state of corruption. I would like to start off today by recognizing our state representatives who are here today. I do see David Love was here. Thank you for being here, David.
It's over there.
Thank you, David, for being here. I do see, sir, I see you here, but I can't remember your name, Representative Yuri. Thank you, Yuri, and your family for being here today.
And Jason.
I see former representative and potential sheriff's candidate in the future, Jason Gearhart. Thank you for being here. But if I miss anyone else, please feel free to raise your hand, because I think it's important to recognize that you're here. In New Hampshire, we have one of the most representative bodies in all of the Western Hemisphere, the Western world, with over 440 representatives, and we have 2 of them here today for a rally that affects all of us and our families. We have 2 representatives who are identifying themselves to come out and say that they care about this issue. We also have one of the oldest constitutional or constitutions in our great country. Our Constitution was written just after the Massachusetts Constitution, and it preceded the United States of America. Our Constitution is older than that. Our Constitution here in New Hampshire was written when New Hampshire was still considered a nation. We had all of the remedies in our New Hampshire Constitution to fix all of our problems. And what our government is trying to do in this state is put off all of our constitutional violations onto a federal court. They don't want to resolve them in this building anymore, and we have remedy available to us. So we're grateful for all of you who are here, because we need to bring remedy to New Hampshire. We need to bring remedy to this building. They're ignoring us. They're laughing at us, pretending that we don't have constitutional protections. I did bring a couple things to read. I won't be long today, but I do want to read first from the United States Constitution. And this is the 14th Amendment for us all to remember. This came out during the Civil War. This was after we became a nation, things that we had to fix. Like we can fix our problems with not just the family court, but the entire New Hampshire judiciary. The 14th Amendment reads in Section 1, all persons born and naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. But what are we here for today? Because we have 438 other representatives who don't care that this is happening in our state.
That's right.
What is this stuff all about?
Money. Money. Amen. And
And
power.
why are they ignoring us? Why can't they care? So
Because they want
all of you are here. Go ahead,
children.
just shout it out. Yell out, Jerry. Go ahead.
They only care about their own children, not our children.
Well, we have lots of remedy in the New Hampshire Constitution, and I won't be long today, but because we do have 2 representatives here and lots of citizens who have more power than even our representatives, this is a government that was made for the people, but they don't care. So it's up to us to fix these problems. I'm so grateful that you're all here. Please enjoy drinks and snacks. We're so happy that you're here. We had more people here last year in a pouring rainstorm, not just a 5-minute sun shower. And we want to fix these problems. In this last legislative process, they completely ignored us. They shut us out. They don't care. We have to fix that because in New Hampshire, Article 4, this is Part 2 of our New Hampshire Constitution. It gives the power of the general court to establish courts. You can find this online, you can download it on an app, and it does give this building, this body, the general court, shall forever, it says shall forever, have power and full authority to erect and constitute judicatories, try that word, that's a good one, and courts of record and other courts beholding in the name of the state. It almost gets ridiculous as I read this out. It says the hearing, trying, determining all manner of crimes, offenses, pleas, processes, plaints. This sounds like a George Carlin list in our New Hampshire Constitution in the 1700s. Actions, causes, matters, and things whatsoever arising or happening within the state or between or concerning persons within the same, whether the same be criminal or civil or not capital, or whether crimes be pleas be real, personal, or mixed, and for the awarding and issuing execution thereon, to which courts and adjudicatories, I can never get that one right, are hereby given, granted full power and authority. This is short. On the next page, reading to from time to time to administer oaths and affirmations, as our friend Leah has tried to remind this court and this body politic behind us. Oaths or affirmations for the better discovery of truth in any matter, controversy depending before them. So if this is what our Constitution reads, why can't we fix our problem? Why are we allowing them to just continue to walk over us and ignore us? It says in our Constitution, which too many of our representatives haven't even read. I read this to them and they look at me like I have 10 heads, like I'm speaking a foreign language. This is our New Hampshire Constitution. It says, truth in any matter or controversy. So you're all here today, and this is what our Constitution says, but we need your help. We need your help to lean into these representatives who are ignoring us. Read them this Constitution, because we can fix any matter in controversy before this body. It doesn't have to take all 440 or a majority vote. They can set up in groups of 16, 20, 24. They're trained to believe that they can't assemble, and we have a right of speech. If we don't have a right of speech, we no longer have a country. If we don't have the right to assemble, we don't have a body politic. If we lose the right to petition our government for redress of grievances, we fall into the type of world that none of us want in this great land. But this is what this body is forcing upon people to consider by taking away their most prized possession, which is just a relationship with their child. So I encourage anybody to read this, go online and read in Article 5. I won't take any more time than I have to here with your time today, but in Article 5, our representatives are told twice that all of the laws and rules that they're allowed to pass have to not be repugnant to the Constitution. It says it not once but twice in Article 5, and they continue to ignore that it's repugnant. My own representative in my district has told me that the general court has a right to make any judicatories that they want. She really believes that that is allowed to violate our rights because they can make a court like that. She's told by this coalition that they can make a court to violate our rights. But I started this off today by reading to you the U.S. 14th Amendment that says they can't just violate our rights, but we're allowing all of this to happen. I think people are here today because they don't want it to continue to happen, so I appreciate you coming out to say that you don't want this to happen in our state anymore. And please support New Hampshire Family Justice because I think this fight has only just begun. Thank you very much for your time. God bless.
Everybody give a round of applause for Joe. Well said. So, he touched on a lot there. We got some feedback from the crowd about money. We talked about contractors. A couple of speakers have talked about contractors. Our next speaker, she's a 5-term rep. She's got 10 years in office under her belt. She has been consistently one of the most prolific prime sponsors or co-sponsors of bills in the House. And she is the founder of the Progressive Caucus, which may be a surprise to some of the people here who are supportive of us because of their dedication to the Constitution and due process. But like I said, we are not partisan. And the issues in New Hampshire around child welfare and family justice are not partisan issues. There is no issue that's probably less partisan than this issue. And I think that that is a big reason that neither the Republicans or Democrats want to hit it head on, because then they'd have to take responsibility and actually get off their butts and do something. And that could hurt their chances at re-election. Politicians really like to do nothing but make it look like they've done something so that they can get their next election. So the next representative is not like that, and because of that and her record of not being a grifter in the House and having a strong moral backbone and firm principles, she's gotten a lot of flack from the left and the right. She is a big proponent of government reform and democratic process reform. She sponsored bills to implement recall elections, ballot initiatives, lobbying disclosures, hand-counted ballot audits, roll call voting, getting big money out of elections, decentralizing power, and increasing oversight and transparency. She's also been a strong advocate for sexual assault and domestic violence victims. She was recognized by American Promise for her bill that made New Hampshire the 20th state to call for an end to unlimited corporate money in elections, and was just calculated by Vanderbilt University and the University of Virginia Center for Effective Lawmaking as the most effective minority party lawmaker in New Hampshire and the 6th most effective overall for the last term. And she just became the first lawmaker in New Hampshire history to be banned from the legislative chamber areas, making it very difficult for her to do her job as a legislator. Without further ado, please honor and welcome Representative Ellen Reed.
Thank you. So the first thing I want to say, and this is, we got a lot of gain.
In the middle.
We got a lot of gain, okay. The first thing I want to say is that everything that I heard the previous speakers say about, and this is after 10 years in this building, about how the vast majority of people here do not care. They laugh when you talk to them about constitutional rights. They don't understand basic government, basic civics. Everything that the previous speaker just said is absolutely correct, and that's after 10 years of fighting and fighting and fighting in this building. I do want to say just really quickly that I'm notoriously bad at reading my own handwriting, so if I pause while I go over my bullet points, I'm sorry, but yes, I have been in office for 10 years. I am the founder of the Progressive Caucus. I identify myself as a leftist. There's a D next to my name. That's an effect of our messed up system, that I have to put that party next to my name just to run, because I don't personally identify with any party. I identify with my values. And my values are your values, and I will show you exactly that that is the case. The reason that I think this has become seen as partisan, in part, is because part of this is criticizing the government, and the Democratic Party has felt like they have to be defensive of the existing structure, and so they just defend everything and don't look at anything. They don't want to look at anything, because if anything is wrong, then they have to give up territory. And the thing is that I agree with Democrats on a lot of, like, the general structure is supposed to be X, Y, and Z, but it doesn't matter what it's supposed to be if it's not working that way. If people with money and power are actually calling the shots and not the people. This is, if you know nothing else about our government, you know that it's supposed to be representative of the people, the great experiment, right? So if you see a quote unquote Democrat being defensive, just know that that's like the knee jerk. But all of us believe in having a system that runs the way we were taught it was supposed to run back in 3rd grade, when we learned what this country was supposed to be. So my story 4 years ago, and I'm going to focus on one bad actor in this entire system that kind of has their tentacles in every aspect of this. And I was a naive, good little Democrat who didn't realize how messed up the entire system was, and how built on corruption and built on money it really was, until I was sexually assaulted by my coworker 4 years ago. And I was denied a rape kit. And it turns out we have a law that said I had a right to a rape kit, and that same law said I had a right to be notified that I had a right to a rape kit, and I was still denied, and no one notified me, and I forever lost my chance to get evidence. And so I reached out to the New Hampshire Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence to put in a bill to say, hey, if a person who believes that they were assaulted goes into a hospital, you should give them that law that already exists. You should give them that law on a piece of paper. There you go. You have a right to be informed. Now we're doing it. We're informing. You have a right to that kit. You have a right to evidence. And to my great shock and surprise, the coalition hated the idea. Pushed back hard, not just hard, they showed up. They fought me the entire writing process. They refused to help, and then they showed up to the hearing, and this is on video, you can look at it. They testified against this bill, saying, first of all, they didn't think that people like me, who had escaped their attacker, had a right to have evidence collected. This is the Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. They also said that they thought that if the rape kit returned evidence that wasn't what they wanted, that it would hurt their case, which is a blatant admission that they are working with prosecution to prosecute people who they either know directly are innocent or suspect are innocent, and they want to keep their blind eyes. Right? So imagine me being traumatized and triggered watching every single institution I thought was there to protect me as a victim betraying me. Because I can tell you one thing, when I came out of that assault, there was only one man that I hated, and it was the perpetrator. I didn't want some innocent dude who'd never done anything to me to be hurt. I don't think any genuine victim actually wants to hurt people who didn't hurt them, right?
Right. Amen.
So it turns out, after kind of connecting, and Leo was like my first plug-in with this, that this was not the first bill that was, oh my God, why is the coalition opposed to this very basic victims' rights bill? I've logged a list of about 20 of these bills that they've opposed that allow people to file for a restraining order online instead of having to go into their office. Bills that help protect people from known predators. Bills that help prevent human trafficking by putting more restrictions on massage parlors. Bills that allow victims to ask for evidentiary hearings. And they've opposed every single one of these. And then when you start to study it, you pick up the through line. You pick up the connecting thread. And the connecting thread is exactly what was said, it's money. Because it turns out that all they really seem to care about is whether or not they can gatekeep services in order to get the federal funding, federal and to a lesser extent state funding. And here's where, well, let me just say, I found out one other thing, because my freshman year, 2018, I got elected in 2016, so it was actually my freshman term. There was the biggest bill, to this day, in 10 years, I've never seen a bill more lobbied than Marsy's Law. I don't know if you're familiar with Marsy's Law. Let me just bear with me while I take you down a little crazy story. There's a billionaire in California named Henry T. Nicholas III. Henry T. Nicholas III in 1985 had a little sister who was murdered. Her name was Marcy. 25 years after the murder, he got in trouble for securities fraud. And part of his deal for the securities fraud was to give a whole bunch of money, millions of dollars, to a nonprofit. So he starts a nonprofit, calls it Marsy's Law, and by most critics, including myself, Marsy's Law looks like a direct attack on the rights of the accused. Those things that make up like 4 of the 10 of the Bill of Rights amendments, the rights of the accused. And Marsy's Law looks flagrantly unconstitutional to a lot of us. But he spent millions of dollars on his own organization to push Marsy's Law, which is a constitutional amendment, in a whole bunch of states, including New Hampshire. And in New Hampshire, Henry Nicholas, I'm going to tell you what we knew of Henry Nicholas by 2018, and then I'm going to tell you what we know about him now. Henry Nicholas gave almost $500,000 to lobbyists in this state to pass Marsy's Law. This entire lawn in 2018 was coated in purple signs. You couldn't see green. That's how badly there were like lobbyists everywhere for Marsy's Law. And I didn't understand it because I'm a newbie, right? So he spent $500,000. Most of that, the bulk of that, went to people who happened to be under the employ of the coalition to lobby for Marsy's Law. They couldn't directly accept the money. That was illegal because they're a 501c3 and they can't exceed their lobbying limits, but they still do. So let's talk about who Henry T. Nicholas was. He was in trouble for securities fraud, but we also knew several other things about him by 2018. We knew that he had been in trouble for battering his partner. We knew that he had not 1, but 5 felony convictions for drug trafficking that involved an incident where his girlfriend was overdosing and he smeared feces on her face and prevented the cops from getting into the hotel room to save her. We also knew that there was a 2007 article in ABC News, reputable, that was exposing, the name of the article was Billionaires in the Bedroom, and it was exposing the sexual lives of 2 billionaires. One was Henry T. Nicholas, who by his own admission had a $30 million underground sex and drug lair. The other one was this New York financier, Jeff somebody, he lived in New York, he has an island, Little Saint something, that guy. This was 2007 before we knew what an Epstein was, and those 2 guys were exposed in the same ABC News article. so when people started to question the coalition, why did you accept all of this money from this guy? He doesn't look like an advocate for victims. They said, we're very proud to work with them. Well, guess what? Now that we have files that we can search names in, 430 times Henry T. Nicholas shows up in the Epstein files, 430 times. And that is the group that accepted nearly $500,000 of lobbying money, the people who are supposed to protect victims, accepted from that guy. So why does this matter to the broader judicial issue? Well, guess who the contracting entity is for DCYF training, for YDC training? Guess who has extraordinarily close ties with the Bar Association, with the AG's office? It's all the same organization. And so now you see why it's very important that they gatekeep all of these services, because it's how they get these grants, these federal and state grants and these contracts. Not only do they contract to train, I mean, we're talking about actual deaths that could have been prevented, because if you're like, well, what the hell is what the heck is DCYF doing out there that they're allowing kids to die, that they're allowing kids to be abused? What the heck are we doing at YDC that people have been abused? And then you realize it's the same training organization that does both. Well, you look at the contracts. Guess what? Not a lot of evidence that that money they received for training, we don't know for sure who they hired or for what. We don't have any metrics for how they trained or like how well they trained anyone, nothing. And here's where it gets interesting. We are not the only state. Every single state has a coalition. Every single one, they're all connected. The Florida coalition, the executive director and the CFO both I believe both already have been convicted of embezzlement of federal funds by doing exactly what it looks like is happening here, saying that, oh, we're hiring all these people to do all these wonderful jobs to help people, but they're not. The Northern California coalition got in trouble for the same thing, $1 million in federal funds. The Missouri coalition, the Oklahoma coalition, the Tennessee coalition, all have gotten in trouble for basically the same thing. So why do we think New Hampshire is any different? Because we don't have any rules exposing that these people have to like file how much. We have no idea how much their employees are making, even though 98% of their money comes from public money to do public jobs. We have no idea. So my whole thing here this year has been to put in a bill to demand an investigation and get everything out in the open. I want to see the books. I want to see what they've been doing.
No, absolutely.
Again, I'm having to look at my... So here's the thing. If it's about money, there's two things that are going to help them make money. And one of them actually does kind of lean into another reason why this is seen as partisan. This is seen as partisan because there is an idea that there's like sexism built into the thing, and that women are unfairly helped and men are unfairly harmed. And let me tell you why that appearance exists and how it's really not about men and women, it's about money. So there's two things that help them make money. One is don't give services. The less services you give, the better. Guess what? People have gone to try to find help at this crisis center and they couldn't get through. The text line was down, the web chat was down, no one answering the phones, no one answering the door. The coalition reports helping 500, depends on what agency they report to, between 275 and 500 rape kits a year. There's actually 1,500 people who show up to a hospital saying that they were assaulted. 1,500. And they fight me asking for the notification of rights for the other 1,000. They say they provide 300 to 400 people shelter every year, but we have evidence of people who've been kicked out with a baby, with an infant on the street. And they receive 12,000 calls every year. So 12,000 calls versus 300. We know that they haven't shown up to court dates, and that's resulted in people being shot in the head because they didn't have an advocate there to help them. So they're not providing the services they are taking those millions of dollars for. But also the other thing, and this is why it comes into sexism, is the thing that helps them get those contracts is what's known as the virtuous victim narrative. The virtuous victim narrative is the narrative that the aggressor, the man, is the big, strong, evil, demonized, and the victim is this pure, virginal, nothing, pigtails, whatever. And that hurts men, it also hurts women who don't fit that mold. So if you think you have a right to go have a beverage at night, or you think you have a right to put whatever clothes you want on your body without being assaulted, guess what? They're not going to help you because that doesn't help their narrative. That doesn't help them make money. But you know what it does may help them? Their narrative helps them make money when the person is involved with a high-profile organization like Dartmouth, or like St. Paul's, or like Phillips Exeter. And then all of a sudden you get this big virtuous victim narrative in the media. Why? Because the public affairs director of the coalition has written the pre-trial publicity handbook. You can read it for yourself. Why would an organization that's there to help victims have a pre-trial publicity handbook? Exactly. And she happens to be married to the political director of WMUR, so that helps out a lot too. So it's not left versus right. And if you pay attention, this is the through line through everything. Whenever we have a problem with the government, whatever issue that people are not in this building are not listening to, it is not left versus right. It's not man versus woman. It's not Christian versus non-Christian. It's not any of that. Those are narratives that they are using to keep you divided.
That's right.
It is power versus powerlessness. That is what it is. All of us should have the values that human relationship is consensual, always. All of us should have the values that someone who targets powerless people, vulnerable people, whether those people are children, whether they are very young women who are impressionable, whether they are women who are intoxicated, whatever, that if you're targeting someone vulnerable, that is about control and you're a predator.
That's a predator.
That's a predator. And everyone should have the value that we don't want predators in our society, and we need to take them out in a way so they cannot hurt anyone else.
Right.
And that process is the last value we all share in this regard, that process needs to be based on facts. It needs to be a fair process. It needs to not be one way or the other. We all share that. I don't care where you come from. We all share those values.
Amen.
Sorry. So it's also not about, and this is the last thing I'm going to say about divisions, it's not about small government versus large government, because we can all agree that we can come together and fund help for victims. We can come together and fund shelters. We can come together and make sure victims get rape kits. We can do that. We can come together and do that. The question is, who's making those decisions? Because it's not us. We're not in charge. We were taught that democracy was we the people and its representative, but that's been a long time that ship has sailed.
Yes.
Those corporations, those moneyed interests, those organizations that are making money off those policies, they're the ones that are writing the policies. So the people who are in charge of how the money gets distributed, those are the people with their hands out once the policy goes into effect. Frederick Douglass wrote about, and I'll wrap up, I'm sorry for going long, Lita. Frederick Douglass wrote about the fact that enslaved people had been intentionally divided into two categories. The house enslaved person and the field enslaved person. And the purpose of doing this, if you're an enslaver, was to keep them at each other's throats. Keep the one group always envious of the other, and the other always afraid that they were going to lose what little privilege they had. That is what's been being done to us for decades. The more we adopt these narratives of virtue signaling, I'm in the right group, you're in the wrong group, I'm in the right religion, you're in the wrong religion, I'm in the good people class and you're in the bad people class. The more we adopt those narratives, the more we are helping the people who are oppressing us and taking our rights. So, despite the fact that I'm far left, and I'm telling you what, the people who don't question things in the middle, the kind of establishment people who just go along, you're not going to get either side on that group. But the people who deeply question, despite the fact that I'm far left and some of you are on the right, I'm going to ask that you reach out to your local leftist, because they also question government. I promise you, leftists, can't promise you all Democrats, but I promise you leftists also question government. They also want the government to work for the people. So reach out and realize that you do share those values, and that this is more important than any of the divisive stuff that you've been taught, by the people who are running the show. And I think that's going to be it. I'm sorry. Oh, and electing someone of good faith is a million times better than electing someone who happens to agree with you or says they agree with you on policy.
Thank you very much, Ellen, for presenting that today. So I want to inform everybody here, we just got a notification of a parent who just went to a domestic violence shelter this week and just was arrested for trying to protect themselves and their child from domestic violence for going to that shelter. We just got that text while we're standing here today.
So heavy stuff. The next speaker that is going to present to you is a victim of the New Hampshire family justice systems. And she's a Concord resident, and she's a fierce fighter, and she's been going through a lot for some years now. And would you all please give a warm welcome to Lauren Vaughn.
Yay, Lauren!
The definition of division: the act of separating a whole into parts, or
You have this, Mama.
what's happening is so disgusting.
Yes.
Numbers don't lie. My name's Lauren. There's a little girl who calls me Mommy. 1,192 days. That's how long my daughter's been out of my arms. 480 consecutive days of no contact, no phone calls, no visits, no Mommy, I love you, big huge. She was 7 when they took her. That's 3 birthdays, 3 years worth of holidays. And the numbers do not lie. 17 hearings, 6 attorneys, 8 caseworkers, 26 parent aides, 3 judges, 4 active docket numbers, 4 placements, 3 schools, 1 reunification order that is completely ignored, 1 TPR denied. What else do they want? I've showed up 3.5 years. I've never missed a visit, a phone call, a check-in, nothing. I have no case plan. I've never had a case plan. I had no CPSW for 2 months. That's my fault. No, it's not. No, it's not. They like to blame me for everything. And I know now.
They call you protective parents because you're not going to give up, and you're going to keep paying the GAL. You're going to pay the filing fees.
No, I'm not paying anything.
You're never going to win.
Nope.
With or without an attorney, because you are.
I'm pro se now, and they're pushing for an attorney. Every time I walk into that courtroom, they push for an attorney, and I tell them no. I know my rights. I know the Constitution. I know my rights. I know the truth. I cannot do any more giving and complying. I've been in substantial compliance. I've watched DCYF and the judge argue on paper. The DCYF writes the orders. The judge gets the orders. The judge whites stuff out and writes in, no, she's in substantial compliance. I've met all 3 requirements for return of custody. Currently, I don't know where my daughter Hannah Maria Vaughn is. I don't know what school she goes to. I don't know if she's okay. I don't know what her doctor, I don't know her therapist. I know nothing. 480 days. Why? I ask why. Neglect is such a broad definition, and it's still unclear. I have no allegations. I have nothing. I had no chance to fight this system, and it's only because of New Hampshire Family Justice that I'm still in the fight. I'm going into TPR round 2, which I don't know even how they can do that. It's because it's closed courts. It's because of no accountability. It's because nobody is doing anything that is you got to be louder. We got to be louder. We all have to band together and become louder and make them hear us. You know, listening to Joe and a revolution, really. Storm the castle, take the kids. What are they going to do? This is our America. This is our ground, not theirs. We put them there. So let's take it back, because my daughter wants to spend her next birthday, her next Christmas. I missed the tooth fairy. I missed it all. She's underweight. She's not doing well. I don't understand how now they can say this is her best interest.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Keeping a child from their parent is not in the child's best interest, and it's a scientific proven study that just can't thrive. So it's not their best interest, and the numbers don't lie. For over $400,000, my child has made this state over what? It's the taxpayers paying for it. It needs to stop, and I thank you guys for all coming and the rain not drenching us. And I appreciate everything New Hampshire Family Justice does for me and for everybody.
Thank you.
Yay, Lauren.
So Lauren was one of the first few victims that I spoke to, and stories that I had heard. And I'll get into what got me into this after, but this is exactly why we're here. It's for stories like Lauren's, that if you do, her story is out there. There's a town hall article on it. There's some tweets on it if you want to go and find out exactly the history there. But there were no allegations that she abused her daughter at all or neglected her. And yet she's had her daughter removed all this time. So our next speaker, I want to introduce to you from an allied organization that also helps victims like Lauren and people who are victims of their own creation and circumstances, because sometimes people make mistakes. Our next speaker is Daryl, who is a member of a ministry called Church of Another Chance, New Hampshire. And they're dedicated for providing transformational support, healing, and advocacy for incarcerated individuals, formerly incarcerated individuals and their families, as well as those who just can't seem to get out of their own way in life. So if you would welcome Daryl and Church of Another Chance.
Hi, my name's Daryl. I'm with the Church of Another Chance. I'm also a formerly incarcerated individual. I spent 20 years right up the road. I received a 30-year to life sentence. I punched my friend in a fight and he died. That was second-degree murder. I got out 10 years early through 65120, which is something this state has and not often used. But I got a full-time cut for the way that I did my time and the way I undertook rehabilitation. People think prison is a place where you go to get fixed. There's a lot of shortages, especially in staff at the prison. So it's more of just a warehouse. It's a place for you to sit out of society until they tell you can go back in. And the people that do the best in there are the people that undertake their own personal journey of rehabilitation. And I worked awful hard at it. When I got out, by chance I was walking through the Congregational Church in Laconia, and I saw a poster that said, "The Church of Another Chance.org. From the darkness we take flight." And I said, oh, I wonder what that is. So I got this little thing that I hadn't had for a long time, this little supercomputer. And man, is this thing freaking handy, I can tell you. And I put in Church of Another Chance, and it said, a church run by Scott Jameson, that caters to the ex-offender, to the convicted felon. The belief of the church is God doesn't make any junk, and we are more than our worst mistake. I mean, imagine that. If everywhere you had to go, you had to introduce yourself as the worst thing that you've ever done. I can tell you that it's hard, and rightfully so. I'm a little on the spot here, so I got to know Donnie. He told me about this organization. It's amazing. So prison is a horrible, terrible place filled with horrible, terrible people, but not everybody there is horrible and terrible. A lot of people there are just trying to atone for the things they've done and have another chance at life. And it's amazing how many abusers were victims of abuse. It seems to be a never-ending cycle, whether at the hands of the state, because there are sure a lot of guys in prison who suffered an awful lot at DCYF, or at the hands of someone else and then, wound up in prison themselves. So when Donnie asked me to play this, I wrote a song for the Church of Another Chance. I'm getting ready to move, and Scott had asked me to write a song. So this is a song about my experience with the church and forgiveness. And I'm really proud of you guys for doing all this work, because this is so important. If you could just see how impactful it is on a child and what they turn into without the right care, without love. Scott often says people just need to be heard, helped, or hugged, the 3 H's. And it's amazing. It's amazing when you hear someone. It's amazing when you hug them, only if they want it. And it's amazing when you can actually help them. And, the theme here of corruption and greed, well, that's a theme that's about as old as, society itself. So it's very hard, but it is government for the people and by the people. So this is a song called Another Seat at the Table. Scott believes that at all gatherings, at all gatherings there should be an empty chair. And the empty chair is for everyone or anyone to sit down at, because you're invited at the Church of Another Chance.
Yes.
Yes, you can. Can I drop the mic? I'm sorry. All right. I think I would be a musician and I would know this, but I don't really know. I've been locked away a long time. All right. So you might not be able to hear it, and I'll sing really loud because that's what I like to do, sing. So while I was in prison, I didn't think I needed God's help, because I didn't need God's help to get into prison. So I didn't want to ask him for help to get out. And as I wrote this song, it sort of starts out with what I would call a busy signal. And I said, had a little bit of a spiritual awakening. All the things in my life, all my hard work came together for the first 20-year goal I had ever accomplished was getting myself out of prison early. And I started to think that maybe it wasn't a busy signal that God was giving me. Maybe it was the phone was ringing, and I just had to answer it. Well, everybody's talking about this church up the street, a fluid congregation that moves its own beat. They'll hug you when you enter and they'll feed you when it's done. No matter what you're doing, they welcome all as one. I thought that I would question them to see if they'd agree. An open seat at the table was what they offered me. I stopped on the way. where the butterflies go in the rain? Or in the search for darkness, do they feel any pain? Do they know that they are changing or just hiding from the light? Until they break free, spread their wings and fly, take flight. They'll teach you how to garden, but it's up to you to do the work. Sometimes another chance is the only chance it took. Staring at the clouds, searching for the light, always asking questions, from darkness we take light. I wandered up their path, they stood there with a smile and said, it took you long enough, we've been waiting here a while. I asked, I wonder where the butterflies go in the rain. Or in the self-spun darkness, do they feel any pain? Do they know that they are changing or just hiding from the light? Until they break free, spread their wings and fly, take flight, alright. Thank you. Keep up the good work and the fight.
Great job. Thank you.
Hey, that was awesome. We had live music. That was a treat. All right, so we only have a couple of speakers left. Before we get to our next speaker, which is Shirley. Are you going to be ready, Shirley? Okay, not yet. But before Shirley comes and tells you about her story, I'll just give you a little background on how New Hampshire Family Justice was founded and some of the problems that I see. So I was elected as a state representative in the fall of 2020. I ran because of the COVID tyranny that I saw happening. I felt that the Constitution was being violated and I needed to do something, so I went into office, and I'm a registered nurse, so I was put on the Health and Human Services Committee, and I, that was my wake up, and it was my main fight was medical freedom and emergency powers reform and all of that. And then in my second term, there was a kind of another wave of reps who came in and who the medical freedom stuff was like rolling, and I kind of stepped back from spearheading a lot of it, and people came to me and said, hey, we're having problems with the state CPS. They're going into people's houses and saying they have a warrant and they don't, and they're making up things about people, and when you get into the family court, you can't present your evidence. The judge could just choose not to even, consider your evidence, and that the scales of justice are being tipped, and that it was harming children, and that it wasn't just people coming and saying, oh, they're trying to take my kid. It was, I'm trying to protect a family member. Maybe it was a niece or a nephew, and the state is keeping them in an abusive home, and they couldn't understand that, and I couldn't understand that. So I asked the Speaker of the House if he would form an investigative committee, because one of the state legislature, as far as the House goes anyway, their job is to redress grievances. I believe it's Part 1, Article 8, that details that the people have a right to petition their magistrates and receive redress for their grievances. So this, for the first 150 years of New Hampshire state history, the first thing that the Speaker of the House would do at the beginning of a legislative session was call forward the petitions from the people and then form committees to investigate the matters brought forth by the petitions, and then they would have a quasi-judicial investigation and hearing and make a determination, and they would actually even issue special law. That the New Hampshire General Court would make special law to make you whole. Say you brought your town selectmen in because they were trying to overstep your private property rights. You'd petition the general court would have a committee and look at your situation and say, yeah, you're violating their rights and you owe him money, so pay it out of the town treasury, and that would be a special law to help make that person whole. That was because the general court was a court. It is a court. So that's how I asked the speaker to form one of those committees, and that was a big problem. So instead he said, we'll create an investigative committee a different way, and he wanted to give all these niceties to the opposing party and informing that committee. Long story short, it got basically torpedoed after the second meeting when I started putting people under oath. I started asking witnesses who, by the way, victims and family members were totally fine being put under oath. They wanted to add that weight to their words. But there is a gate. There is a bright neon sign in the face of any legislator who tries to bring investigative committees back. Yeah, you can't. Do not pass go. And it's like the uniparty is locked in on, we don't do investigative committees here. So that's one avenue of redress that the people have before they have a right of revolution. They can invoke their right of revolution, is they can get their redress. They can also get it through the county grand juries, which also have not been operating the way they constitutionally are supposed to. So I saw all of these issues. No one wanted to get into it. Basically, I was pulled off the committee. The speaker threatened to shut it down because I was putting people under oath. Like, it didn't make any sense. So I started to realize, okay, there's something behind the curtain that is bigger than Democrats and Republicans. It's bigger than any of that. So, and I had linked up during that time of researching all of what was going on before I asked the speaker for the committee. I linked up with a lot of advocates here, like Dana and Donald, Gail, who's not here today, but we linked up with a lot of people who had been fighting for the reform in the family court and DCYF all along. They helped me understand and brought me up to speed, and we had just some new vigor for this cause, and so we just came together and we created this nonprofit. Now, we talk about nonprofits a lot, and we kind of call them out because they're not operating as nonprofits, and there's a big difference between nonprofits like the New Hampshire Coalition Against Sexual and Domestic Violence, which operates basically 98% by taxpayer dollars, federal grants. I call them grant grifters. Okay, these are the nonprofits that are basically in existence to exploit the ability to get taxpayer dollars, and so they'll get contracts, and they'll say we can offer these services and we'll do a great job, and then there's very little oversight on how those services are provided. New Hampshire actually got hit by an Office of the Inspector General report that found that we are not in compliance for making sure our sub-recipients of grants are complying with the law that allows them to receive those grants. So essentially that's how we got started, how we got involved. Some of our members are past victims or current victims still dealing with litigation in cases themselves. One of our board members was just arrested, as you just heard, for going to a shelter and trying to seek safety for her and her son. And some of our board members are just good people who have a strong heart for those who are going through hard things and just want to see something done about it and do the little that we can with the little that we have, to at least bring attention to the issue and at least connect victims with other victims or other people who have been through it before. We've linked up with Rosanne, who's a former CPSW, and it's just that everybody's got knowledge to help. It's really it's our right to assemble and consult upon the common good, like is shown in the Constitution. We have that right. That's what we're doing. And then we consult upon the common good and we say, this ain't it. What's happening right now is not it. So that's how I got involved. That's how New Hampshire Family Justice started. We have plans for the future. Something that no other organization in New Hampshire that I know of really does is send out candidate surveys to county attorney candidates and sheriff candidates and county commissioner candidates. So we will be making up a survey at least for county attorney candidates because it's a really pivotal role, and I'm really thankful to see some county attorney candidates for Merrimack County are here. and you can talk to he's over this direction if you want to speak to him. I won't say his name because we won't stump, but it's nice to see when people turn out and they are listening to the people. You know, that's something to pay attention to when they're listening to us. And we want to make sure the R next to a name doesn't mean anything, because the people making money, these grant grifters, they buy politicians on both sides. They make, you know, sham donations, basically. It's like we have our own quality leering centers in New Hampshire, but they're the New Hampshire brand. They're more well-established, you know, white-collar looking kind of organizations that have good reputations even in some instances, but they are, when it comes down to it, doing the same kind of things. And so without further ado, I will call Shirley up to share her story. You may have heard Shirley's story. Diana Fenton was an attorney for the state. She works for the Department of Education, and she's also married to a judge, Todd Previtt, and they happened to be fostering Shirley's son, who was taken from the state. Come on up, Shirley, and give Shirley a round of applause. So we actually put out a call to action, and thanks to Shirley's bravery, because honestly, I tell a lot of stories that victims tell me because they're afraid to speak out. They don't want to show their face and, you know, put their cases in jeopardy, and I totally get that. And I never put pressure on anybody to ever come up and speak if they don't want to or if they have fear of retaliation. That's why we're here, so we can be that, you know, the voice for you. But it is still, it is.
An arrest warrant for wrongdoing. I'm gonna go to jail for 1 year probably. I said bye to my sons today. I got my backpack. This bike is gonna be chained up over there. Turning myself into the police because I've done nothing wrong. It was wrongdoing on an accusation from a restraining order. And guess what? The wrongdoing was online. Imagine that. I'm turning myself in, guys. I hope my kids can see me in a week. If not, it's going to be a long time.
Maybe we pause and pray for this man.
Jeremiah Martel.
Dennis, would you come up and just say a prayer for him?
Thank you, Dennis. Yep.
Amen.
And thank you, ma'am. I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm going to listen to your story because everybody just allowed me to interrupt.
So Shirley's story. The victims are the ones, they've gone through all of this. I mean, and we don't, I often will share stories, and I have like a list of them that I can give to legislators, and I've spoken them from the floor, but you know, because of Shirley's courage to come out and tell her story, we were able to mount a campaign against Diana Fenton because she was being nominated to be the next child advocate for the state of New Hampshire by Kelly Ayotte. And she's just got deep ties. Her husband's a family court judge. She's worked as a attorney for the state. She did work in a prosecutor's office at one point, I believe. And so here's Shirley. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you, Leah. Just so everyone know that my name is Shirley Haryanto. I have publicly in a newspaper in the beginning of Diana Fenton nomination by Kelly Ayotte. Even before get nominated by Kelly Ayotte, just give you a briefly story. I reached out to everyone from representative of New Hampshire to senator to including Governor Kelly Ayotte office by myself, requesting to be met in person. But Kelly Ayotte people refuse to give me assistance because they learned that my foster parent is reprimanded judge, Todd Previtt, and Diana Fenton. I did not know until the last minute I'm getting a termination parental rights hearing. It's very last minute. And just so you know, it's been like 2 years now. I have not get my son back. My visit is not being moving. It's still 2 hours. still supervised visit, even though before I have 3 hours house supervised visit in my apartment, and now at the Mill Creek office. And parent aides even meet in person when picking up my son at the Diana Fenton's house. This is fully conflict of interest, not only for husband itself, also the wife itself. Let me read it, I'm sorry. So, my name is Shirley Haryanto. I stand here today not just as mother, a child that had been taken away from me, but as a mother who has been fighting for her child for more than 2 long years, whose parental rights that effectively been terminated through a process that was unfair, inconsistent, and blind to the truth, without actual due process or actual termination process. A mother whose son has suffered abuse in a system that was supposed to protect him. Even until now, I still see my son with the bruises, cuts. Even his long nail is very dirty, has not been cut for many months already because I didn't cut. And parent aide said that that's my responsibility as my own mother, as his mother that not living with me. This is insane. I'm here because silence is no longer an option. So I encourage every parent in United States, not only New Hampshire, every different state, every different side in the world, please speak up. I encourage you, because if we are not unity in one voices to fight this together, we're having a trouble, because this is powerful people that underneath a hole that behind the curtain that will put our children in danger. Not only their life, but their future as well. For 2 years, my son has been placed in a foster home where he has been mistreated and harmed. For 2 years, I have been reported concerns, begged for help, mercy, and demanded accountability. And for 2 years, the people responsible for protecting children has ignored the danger he is in. Just let you know as well, when my son was swollen face and bruises in his private area, even Manchester Police Department not having any initiate or taking care of this matter. They've been quiet and silent without no solution at all to protect my son. The foster parent, Todd Brevet, is a man who has already been reprimanded by a family court judge in 2021. They also put the dress on my son, and they allowed to care for my son. And Dinah Fenton is an attorney in New Hampshire Department of Education. And it's been involved, I think something wrong with my thing. About my son, despite clear conflicts of interest, these are not a small mistake. These are not misunderstanding. These are failures that have cost my son his safety, his stability, and his right to be with his mother. Since he left my side, my son has been very skinny and bony, and I don't even know what he's eating. He's not even taken care of well. Every day or every time I come visit him, I keep asking him, have you brushed your teeth, honey? No. My foster mom forgot to brush my teeth every day, not only morning, but nighttime too. I feel like the foster parent not taking care of my son in the best interest. This is not just my story. This is the story of many parents who has been silenced, dismissed, and pushed aside with a system that too often acts without transparency, without accountability, and without compassion. Today, I'm raising my voice for my son, for every child who has been hurt in the foster care, for every parent who has been treated unfairly, for every family torn apart when reunification has been the goal. I'm calling for a full investigation into the abuse that my son has suffered, accountability for every official who ignored the warning signs, transparency in every decision made about my child, reform so no other family has to endure what mine has endured, reunification because my son belongs with his mother, safe, loved, and protected. Everyone, please note this. I will not stop fighting. I will not stop speaking. I will not stop demanding justice for my son. I will not stop reaching to everyone in every side of New Hampshire to be able to help me speak and everything that we can do together. Because a mother's love does not end when the system fails. Amen. A mother's love becomes stronger, louder, and more determined. And today I stand here with all of you, not in the fear, but in the courage, not in silence, but in truth, not defeated, but rising. My son deserves better. Our children deserve better. And together, we will make sure they get it. Thank you.
Give a round of applause for Shirley. Did you have one more thing?
No,
You did great.
yeah.
You did good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Rosanne wants to speak quickly, and then we will introduce our headline speaker for the day.
So what I want to say is I am, as Leah explained, I'm a former CPSW. I'm a former, I had foster brothers and sisters growing up. My parents were foster parents. I was an adoptive parent. I was on the adoption waiting list. I am a birth parent that released a child for adoption. I have worked within the system for over 20 years. And when I started seeing things going wrong, I stepped forward. When you see something, say something. And the system came after me. I got out before I walked away from my job so that the system could not take my kids. So my goal, first and foremost, is to apologize for every single parent, child, foster parent, worker, anybody who's ever been abused by this system, because every single one of us have, okay? That's first and foremost. The second thing is that it's much bigger than a foster system. It's much bigger than, this system it affects every single one of you. If you are here in the state of New Hampshire and within my voice, this corruptness is affecting you. Whether it be in DCYF, whether it be in juvenile justice, whether it be in the criminal system, the court system, because you know, all these kids hurt people. And we need to stop what our system, what our state has done to hurt our own people. We should be most unified when it comes to our children. But I'm hearing things right now that this data center thing is gonna be what's unified our state. Shame. It should be our children. It should be our most precious possession, whether it's your child or your neighbor's children. We need to start standing up. We need to be unified. Okay, just very quickly, I am working kind of outside of all the realms. So I'm not a board member. I don't belong to any specific organization, but I right now am working with a number of people. I am working with moms who are involved with the domestic violence system and being denied their rights. I am working with foster parents who have been abused by the system and lied to by the system. I am working with biological parents. So, and every single one of them's rights have been denied. So it's not about, oh, well, that mother's, abuse and neglect, or that person's got an angry temper. No, the bottom line is the system is corrupt, and it's put in place the way it has been put in place on purpose for them to generate profit. And whether that profit or power, and I will take it one step further. I won't say that Leah mentioned something about grifters, grant grifters. No, they're predators. We have predator developers. We have predatory grant funders. We have predatory housing people, predatory landlords, there isn't a thing that exists in our system, in our society, that cannot be predatory if there's money to be made or power to be had. So we all need to be on focus. I'm challenging everyone here. You know 10 people that are being affected by this system. Reach out to them. We need to unify, okay? We need to come together for all things, whether it's fixing the corrupt police that are working within our police departments, whether it's fixing our corrupt judges. By the way, that judge that was previously mentioned, I believe he now has 2 reprimands, and he's only been a judge since 21, I believe. No one's worried about that? No one's brought it up. We have 3 judges that instead of aging out are resigning. Why? Because they know that we're exposing them. So we ask that you guys start looking. If you see something, say something. Have the courage to not be afraid. So in every single one of these DCYF petitions, it says, if you tell anyone what's going on in this courtroom or what's going on with your case, we have the right to put you in jail. So you wonder why we don't hear anything about these parents that children are being taken. Because they're afraid of going to prison, and then what are they going to do for their kids? They're their last defense. They're their children's last defense. And that court system has become a way to silence them. So I just very quickly wanted to say that. I want to end with plug Kingdom of the Counties. This is a Christian organization. It is bringing revival, and revolution, and truth to all 9. We have 9 counties left. Our first one kicked off last week in Claremont. We have 9 counties. The next one is next Saturday at Loon Mountain, and we'll be coming to Merrimack County also. And it's only 3 to 5. It's free. Anyone can come. Come and listen to the word of the Lord and get to know who we need to unite with.
Round of applause for Roseanne. Thank you, Roseanne. Yeah. So we heard a lot from Roseanne about corruption and how it's in every piece, and that if there's money to be made and something to be exploited, that someone will do it. And so we know that about human nature. We know that predators will find their prey. They will go to the place where their prey is, and they seek it out. They seek out positions of authority. They seek out positions of confidentiality. They seek out these positions where they can exploit people without being detected, and where they can hurt people without being detected, without much oversight. So it really comes down, and the major driver of all of this that could stop it is oversight, right? If we just have some oversight and accountability, real accountability, but we don't ever see those prosecutions, we don't see the county grand juries sending out indictments for these people. We don't see the redress of grievance process on the House floor. So that's what's been removed. I mean, we can reform all we want, but until there's actually accountability for the bad actors, until they don't have immunity, until they don't have a way to wiggle out and kind of avoid the, the magnifying glass being on them, and able to kind of blame someone else and blame shift, we won't have any change. So the next speaker and our last speaker of our official rally, and then we will open up the mic for anyone who wants to speak a little bit after, is Ryan Ralston. Ryan is the Director of Operations at the national nonprofit You Are the Power. You Are the Power was founded in 2020 by Vice President candidate Spike Cohen. You may have heard of him. And they support people to resist government overreach through community engagement and citizen empowerment. And their work is grounded in the principle of human respect. So it's something that New Hampshire Family Justice can totally align ourselves with. And they came last year, and we've hosted some panels together at some political events, and we've talked about these issues because You Are the Power has, initially I saw a lot of their campaigns on Twitter, where they would tell a story about a family that was going through something unjust or a citizen, and this not necessarily family court or CPS related, but a lot of the times they were. And then they would get the people, the phone number, the email, and the office address, and send the people out to, make some noise and let these people know you're being watched, we know what you're doing, and we're mounting pressure, so you better act right. So that kind of activism is very powerful, grassroots activism like that. So without further ado, I invite Ryan to come up here. He's been promoted. He's now the Director of Operations at You Are the Power, running the day-to-day of the entire organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. And thank you for having me up here 2 years in a row. It looks like I brought the rain with me from Atlanta, and I apologize in advance for that. So like Leah said, our mission is to protect individuals, families, and other nonprofits from local government abuse. We use the power of social media to tell their story and demand local officials treat them with respect to ensure that permanent change happens so abuse does not occur again. The organization's foundational ideology is the principle of human respect. So what that means is coercion, theft, and violence will always reduce one's happiness, harmony, and prosperity. This is not going to change throughout one's life, nor does it matter who the primary aggressor is. You Are the Power's work begins when a violation of the principle of human respect occurs. Like Leah said, we are a national nonprofit that operates in all 50 states. We have over 5,000 members, and we have a social media reach of just over 150 million people. About 3 years ago, the organization accepted our first family policing and child protective services case, and after successfully reuniting that family, due to the increased demand in family policing requests for assistance, the organization formed a specialized program, the Family Reunification Program, to address those needs nationwide. And today, the team processes anywhere between 70 to 100 applications for assistance each month, and those are coming to us from all over the country. Since then, we have successfully reunited families nationwide, assisted in the passage of a second opinion legislation bill in Georgia, and stopped harmful legislation in Tennessee that would have incarcerated foster children in youth detention centers without due process or a formal hearing. The bill in Tennessee would have potentially impacted thousands of children. And why is due process for children and families so important? You need to look no further than Miss Shirley or Miss Lauren or anyone else here who's been impacted by family court. 1 in every 8 children across the country before they reach the age of 18 will have child protective services involved in their lives. 1 in every 8. So look around here today, the number of children, I don't know if we've exceeded 8, but one of those children will have child protective services involved in their life before they turn 18. That means millions of children across the country could be swept into a system in dire need of reform. When a child welfare report is filed, which by the way, over 4 million reports are filed nationally each year, it triggers government intrusion in the lives of those children and parents, regardless if they want it or need it or not. Bear with me, I don't have fingernails to separate these pages. And that intrusion entangles families both innocent and in those in need in a process with a far lower standard of proof, rules of evidence as found in criminal court. The case in point for that is that hearsay is admissible in family court. And for unfounded reports filed against innocent families, that ties up much needed resources for families who are in actual need. And of those 4 million reports that are filed each year, only 7% of those reports are substantiated. So 4 million reports are filed each year across the country, and only 7% are substantiated. And those stats are available at the Children's Bureau, which is a division of the Administration of Children, Youth, and Families within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And with the national reunification rate being below 50%, a child who has a Child Protective Services report filed against them, and that child is removed from their home or from their parents' or guardians' care, it is more likely than not that that child will not be returned to their parents or guardians. Again, prime example would be Miss Lauren and Miss Shirley, and countless others across the state of New Hampshire. Currently, there are over 500,000 children nationwide who are being served by child welfare systems in some capacity or another. When a child enters the foster care system, if they age out, meaning that they reach the age of 18 without being adopted, only half of those children are anticipated to graduate high school. Boys who age out of foster care are 5 times more likely than their peers to be arrested. Girls who age out of foster care are 14 times more likely to be arrested than their peers. And half of the children who age out of foster care will contend with substance use disorder or substance use abuse. Nearly 20% of everyone who's currently incarcerated in the United States came out of the foster care system. So I want to repeat that stat one more time. Nearly 20% of everyone who is currently incarcerated in the United States came out of the foster care system. So where does that leave us? What can we do to rectify this situation? Events like this are critical. Networking, like Ms. Shirley said, being vocal, working with trusted nonprofits, not the grifters, who have a proven track record of putting the needs of children and families first. Researching whether or not your state has a codified parental bill of rights. Knowing if your state has an Office of the Child Advocate and statutorily what powers are afforded to them. Get to know your local state legislators. I've been to New Hampshire multiple times. Like I said, I'm from Atlanta. And the state legislators up here that I've had the privilege to meet are just fantastic. Mr. Love, JD, Diana Kelly, and others that I've had the opportunity to meet and network with during my several trips up here to New Hampshire are fantastic. And they're prime examples about why you should stay engaged and involved with your legislators. I have no doubt that if someone were to contact Mr. Love, email Mr. Love, stop Mr. Love and have a conversation with him, he would not go out of his way to listen to what you had to say. I'm confident that he would do that. And that's the kind of legislators that we need across the country. Make sure you stay engaged in the legislative process. Be willing to be the voice of the voiceless. Advocate not just for reform, but for effectual reform. Talk to your local churches about their willingness to sponsor and mentor foster children. Volunteer at local youth centers. Tutor children who might be falling behind in their school studies. And most importantly, be the change that you want to see reflected in your community. There are solutions that do not involve government or governmental programs. Support those alternatives, either financially if you're able to do so, or by volunteering your time. I live in Georgia, and there's a nonprofit called Families for Families. It was founded, believe it or not, by a general contractor. This man built houses for years. And him and his wife became involved in the foster care system, and he realized that that it needed some serious reform. And so rather than just talking about it, he actually became about it, and he founded this nonprofit. And so the nonprofit works with churches across the entire state of Georgia, training staff and staff members about child welfare reform, foster care, and adoption. And this nonprofit, which is faith-based, is an alternative program to state-sponsored foster care and adoption programs and protocol. And in my neighbor to the south in Florida, there's a nonprofit called Hope Children's Home. It has a sprawling campus and home for the children of parents who are going through Child Protective Services cases or who simply cannot care for their children, even though they are based in Florida. They accept cases across the country. That's another prime example of a nonprofit that you should take a look at or consider partnering with, simply because of the work that they do across the country. And it's something that is based not on governmental programs, but on volunteerism and advocacy. These are but two examples of many of the wonderful nonprofits working in child welfare and family policing spaces across the country, who make a profound difference and impact in the lives of the children and the families that they serve. If anybody wants to reach out to us for assistance, you can go to our website, which is youarethepower.net. If you're interested in volunteering with the program, it's youarethepower.net/volunteer. If you feel that you might have a case or you might need our assistance, go to youarethepower.net/help. There's 2 short forms you complete. They might take maybe 90 seconds. And then from there, a member of the team will reach out to you. If after this rally, if after this meeting, you want to talk to me about anything in private, I will share with you my email address. I'll share with you my personal cell phone number. We can continue this conversation. I appreciate and I'm thankful for Leah and her team for putting this on 2 years in a row. I'm thankful and appreciative of Leah and her nonprofit for doing what they do. This is something that I'm proud to be here and represent my organization of, and to partner with Leah. Leah and I have known each other for a few years and we're friends. And so, again, Leah is one of those people that I'm confident if you had any questions, concerns, that you could went up to her. She would be the first person to stop what she's doing and listen to what you have to say. I've never met a member of her team that didn't offer a hug while they were introducing themselves to me, and that says a lot, especially where I come from. And these ladies over here, I've been trying to read your shirts all day. I promise you I had. These shirts are incredible. So again, without me kind of going off script, which I'm apt to do from time to time, I'm from the South, and so I like to talk. If you guys don't have any other questions or for me, I'm going to turn it back over to Leah. But thank you again for having me up there. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Everybody give a hand for Ryan. Ryan Ralston, you are the power. Thank you for coming all the way up from Georgia. The weather was good for the most part. Well, that does it for our scheduled program. I do want to make a couple of mentions. There are free Bibles on this table over here. There are also free materials, some information about the Office of the Child Advocate, which maybe we can talk about that if you guys want our views on that as well. We don't want that office to go away. We want it to have more power, and we want it to have a figure in there who's actually capable of leveraging that power and not partisan either. So we don't want to see that office go away, so there's some information there about the Office of the Child Advocate. Also, I know I mentioned a lot about grant grifters and nonprofits, but we are 100% voluntary donation funded. So if you are feeling generous today, you can make a donation over here with my friend Denise, and she can make that happen. And a $25 donation or more will get you a t-shirt as well. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out today. Please pray for Stephanie. Please pray for that gentleman. Please pray for Shirley and for Lauren. It is unbelievable what the state is doing to them. Pray for our mission. We'll be watching bills. We'll be at hearings coming up. We'll be talking to legislators. We want to know who the legislators are who pick up these issues and are ready to, take the sword and just run and, to head this issue in the State House. And Dave Love, Representative Love, has done a lot of that work on the Children and Family Law Committee, but he needs backup too. He needs some help over there because he's kind of the voice in the wilderness. So just thank you all so much for coming out, for supporting due process, even scales of justice for kids, for families. We want to see less harm. We want to see less damaged people turned out into society, and then in turn less criminals and less harm. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of the day. Okay. This is Denise. She's a member of our board, and she's going to share a letter from our board member and victim of the system right now.
Yes, so this is from a mom that's been fighting the system for quite a few years now. She became involved in family court because when her son was a few months old, his father was arrested out of their shared apartment for domestic violence. And he was only 3 months old. Soon thereafter, the father filed for custody in family court. Like many parents, she believed that when evidence was presented and the law was followed, the courts would protect constitutional rights, protect families, and protect children. In criminal proceedings, her son's father was convicted of all the domestic violence charges that were against him from when he was 3 months old. And after that, he was convicted of stalking her. After that, he was the subject of close to a dozen DCYF investigations, which resulted in an abuse neglect finding against him involving serious injuries to her then 2-year-old son. The abuse had not stopped to this day. Her son turned 5 years old, and he has been physically abused by his father his entire life. A 3rd-degree burn on his wrist, multiple black eyes, busted lips, a near broken nose. The nose was not broken because he was too little to have like actual bone there, but if he was older, he would have had a broken nose. And disturbing bruises on his stomach and lower back. She learned that too often family court operates behind closed doors with little to no accountability, broad discretion, and life-altering decisions that are often made with devastating consequences. As of this day, she obtained a Massachusetts restraining order intended to safeguard her and her son. Rather than bringing stability and safety, the situation escalated into a legal maze of conflicting orders, procedural failures, and actions that violated fundamental principles of due process and equal protection under the law. The reason she can't be here today is because the former judge, Ellen Joseph from Manchester Family Court, issued family court orders completely ignoring the existence of the valid Massachusetts restraining order and that protected her son. The restraining order was clear. After 4+ years of continued and ongoing domestic abuse, her son's father was to remain at least 100 yards away from both of them. He was also prohibited from all contact, both direct and indirect, for the period of 1 year. Ellen Joseph responded by saying she had jurisdiction to order custody and implied that while Massachusetts ordered my son's father to stay away from us, that she could instead issue that he had shared custody and then sole custody. Those orders have resulted in a warrant for her arrest, citing interference with custody. They are safe. And she's taking every legal action to address this matter without putting her son in harm's way ever again. No parent should have to wonder whether the law will be applied fairly, whether their constitutional rights will be respected, or whether a court's power can exercise without meaningful accountability. Her story is not unique, as we've heard today. Across New Hampshire, mothers and fathers are coming forward with stories of arbitrary rulings, ignored evidence, unequal treatment, retaliation for speaking out, and systems that seem more concerned with preserving authority than pursuing justice. Family courts make some of the most important decisions that government can make. They decide where children live. They decide whether parents can see their children. They decide the future of families. With power that great must come transparency, accountability, the child's actual best interest being upheld, and respect for constitutional rights. So we're not here to seek special treatment. We are here because every family deserves equal treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you for reading that. Powerful stuff. And she's a member of our board and going through a really hard time. And she was also one of the first victims that I spoke with. You know, her son's father was convicted already of domestic violence against her son, and yet the state kept arguing. DCYF was arguing that you should go with him. despite photos of black eyes and everything else. Anyone else coming up to speak? Come on up. This is John Reich. Did I pronounce it right?
Close, Reich.
Reich, sorry.
Yep, Reich. This was a little impromptu. I was not planning to speak today or anything, and I really don't want to pander. I don't want to come across as pandering here, but everything that I've heard here today, it's pretty amazing. Representative Reed, Lauren, and I think, let's see, I wrote it down, Shirley. Your stories were very, very tear-jerking and heartfelt. I have many personal reasons why domestic violence is a very, very important topic to me. But as I can attest to here, it is something that affects the hearts of many, and you all already know that. I think we all have to come together, like you've all said, and I think one of the best ways that we can do that is to make sure that we're electing our local officials that are directly responsible to the people. And there's almost no position in Merrimack County that has more focus than the Merrimack County Attorney from the people. It represents the entire county, and it represents us in the courtrooms. So when you talk about corruption, when you talk about calling people out, I'm the candidate that the Uniparty does not want. Why? Because the Uniparty wants to put people in the Merrimack County Attorney's position that won't speak out to these things, that won't speak the truth to these things. I can be a thorn in the side of justice sometimes, but that's because the truth often is. Bureaucrats are just as grifty as NGOs. They want their jobs to continue. So they will help issues like this necessarily. In fact, they'll make it worse. I'm a fourth-generation native of New Hampshire, and I told you that I have personal experiences. I'm one of those people in that statistic that somebody pointed out that has been through the system as a child that had involvement with the DCYF because my parents had domestic issues. Any of you can call me, any of you can talk to me personally, and I'll open up to you about all of those issues. It's not something that I like to air out in public, but I would like to talk to anybody about that. So please take one of my cards. It's got all my information on the back of it. I'll give one to you, Shirley, don't worry about it. It's got all my information on it. Now you're gonna notice something on here too. The phone number is unique, and you'll know it's me calling. You'll know that I'm receiving calls from you because it's 907. That's an Anchorage phone number. I was a fourth-generation native from here, and in 2000, I did an internship in Florida, and I wound up staying there for 17 years with my wife, who's from Coos County. She's right over there. She's my treasurer, and she's my best friend, and she's my case manager. And she'll tell you my passion for these kinds of topics, for this kind of subject matter, is heartfelt and from deep down inside. She knows my story, and she can also share it with you as well. So if you call me or you call her and get in touch with her, you can hear about my journey through that process and why I think it's important to change the way the system works here in New Hampshire. A lot of people, one of the things that I didn't hear addressed here, but is very important. A lot of people don't understand that district court is a whole different entity from Superior Court in New Hampshire. That is not the same anywhere else in this country. In this country, in Florida, when you go into a courthouse, it's got the misdemeanor judges and it's got the Superior Court judges, well, what we would call Superior Court judges. It's got your felony judges and your county court judges in Florida. That's like your circuit courts here and your Superior Courts there. The difference in New Hampshire is that in district court, you do not get a jury trial. So, I don't know, maybe 60%, maybe even as high as 75% of all domestic violences, they start in the district court. Well, they all start in district court, but the ones that remain there the 70% that might remain there, are the misdemeanor charges. And they stay in that court all the way through a trial. While some of these ladies who were speaking, Laura, I think, talked about having 31 different judges, or I don't remember the numbers you were talking about, but they were crazy, and I understood that because it's frustrating when I'm in Superior Court trying to get a Superior Court judge to issue a bail order that says, protect this woman and protect her child right now. Do not allow this person to talk to these people at all. And the judge looks at me and says, but the family court is in better position to know what to do. And I'm like, no. The family court is an inferior court to the Superior Court, yet it takes its lead from the family court. And guess who's there down in family court trying to manipulate that system? Guess who? The abuser's attorney, right? These women are coming into those courts without any help. They don't have an attorney most of the time. Sometimes they do, but most of the time they don't have an attorney there with them, and they have to sit there and be cross-examined, which is really just a deposition for the criminal defense attorney who might have a criminal case in district court as well, in front of a district court judge. Or worse, they have a criminal case in Superior Court where it's a felony. And that woman is not getting protection because those Superior Court judges just want to defer it to the other side. Here's the problem. Well, here's one of the problems in New Hampshire, and that is everybody, and I think everybody here knows this, everybody likes to kick it to the next person. Everybody likes to find a place to put things where they don't have to be accountable for what happened. They can take the credit for saying, yay, I just passed an amazing bill that gave $12 million to an organization that's not accountable to how they spend it. And then that legislature doesn't have to worry about being the one that voted for that program. Why? Because then when it comes back and something happened, something was corrupt, the money was spent weirdly, the problem got worse. Oh, well, we just need to throw more money at it because the people that are running that program think we need to spend more money on that program. Now, that's not to say these aren't good people doing God's work and doing good work. That's not my point. But we need people in positions like the Merrimack County Attorney's Office that will point those things out to the people directly. Here's another thing that I think is terrible. I almost think it's misogynistic. And I've been quoted as saying that to my colleagues in this system. You can't see, as a public record, you cannot see anything on the publicly available website in New Hampshire for court cases. Every victim in this state of any crime, with the exception of sexual abuse and domestic violence, you can go on to, any public member can go on, sign up, you just register on the court, on the county portal of your choice or the district of your choice, and you can look up any case in the state of New Hampshire by name or case number. But when you go to look up a domestic violence case, a case that's been brought as a domestic violence, you don't see it. It says no such case. So if your neighbor, think about this, a victim's out there and they're talking to their neighbor's like, oh, what happened? What, are you okay? Yeah, I'm okay. There's a case, they arrested him, whatever. And they're trying to ascertain, do I want to believe you? Do I not want to believe you? And they go on to the court website and they can't find a case. And they start thinking that victim's crazy. I can't see that actually happened. Now, I don't know why. They claim that it's to protect the privacy of the victims themselves. But you just don't put their names on there. You don't have to. But the person who got arrested for it, yeah, put their names out there so everybody can see what's going on and how that case is being handled. Because one of the pillars of justice that our founding fathers attributed to was that they knew was an essential part of our system, especially in a system where the judges are not elected. In Florida, they're elected, so they are accountable to the people. But here, they get life appointments, just like our federal system. And what did our founding fathers do to protect us from that? What's the check and balance on that? Anybody? One hand? Anybody? Open courts. Leah, thank you. Thank you. Leah is the one that put me on to this coming here today. I met her at church down at Granite State Baptist. And she told me about this program, and I had no idea really what it was all about. And I had no idea when I was coming here today, but it is an inspirational organization. And I think everybody who's listening to me right now, anybody who sees any posts of this video, I'm going to post it as soon as I get out of here. Everybody should be donating to this organization, because you know what? Ellen, I know you said you were, oh, she's not here. Is she not here? She left. Okay, she took off, but I'm sure she's busy and has things to do, but she was saying she's far left. And you're right, it doesn't matter if you're far left or far right on this particular issue. But I'll tell you what does matter. I'm running as a Republican, and one of the reasons I am doing that, number one, I'm conservative, but number two is it's really the only place that you don't have to take your commands from high above. If I get this office, it's because the Republican people are going to elect me to this office, and I'm going to be directly responsible to those people. I'm not going to have to listen to some NGO think tank somewhere from Washington and say, hey, the hive mind has said this is what we're doing today, and this is what you have to do. You have to allow that grift to keep continuing on to these NGOs that are going to be taking that money. We're going to send the federal money to New Hampshire. We're going to get you addicted to that federal money, and you're not going to be able to get off of it because we're in charge. That's what I think the Democratic Party does right now. I'm not saying they've always done that. I voted for Democrats. I've actually worked on the Gore campaign in this state when he was running as a primary. My journey is long. I've been a public defender for almost half my career, 10, 11 years. That was where I started, in Orlando and in Miami. I have deep insight to both sides of this issue. I understand how it works, and we need prosecutors who can be neutral and objective when they're analyzing all these cases. Every single case is unique and should be treated as such. They're not just numbers. They're not just something to go out there and get a star, a gold star for the day. They should be treated individually, and we need to be able to objectively do our jobs in order to do it right and to ensure that the families that are affected by domestic violence are helped. And I'll say one more thing, and Leah knows this about me. I want to put faith back into the court system. And I've seen a lot of people here today that feel the same way. And I'm very, very happy to see that. And one of the places that can do the best work is in domestic violence. It really can. So ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for stepping into your meeting here today and doing a campaign stump, but I really do feel like this was important. God blessed me to be here. Jesus put me in Leah's path, I'm positive, for this very moment today, and I thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. All right, with that, I don't see anyone else. You want to talk about grand juries? Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, get up here so we can hear you.
Jason Gerhard to inform us about grand juries.
All right, thank you. Joe is passing out. So, speaking of God's grace, I was in Concord the other day when I signed up to run for sheriff. This echoes. All right, anyway, when I signed up to run for sheriff, so I decided to go down to the city library looking for information on the grand juries from New Hampshire in times past. Because the grand jury has the ability to not only have their accusatory role, where the prosecutor says, hey, we think this guy was selling crack or whatever it may be, but also the investigatory role. They can investigate bureaucrats, corporations, and politicians, which is key to getting back on track. And as we talked about, the NGOs actually having real accountability. So as you'll see within this manual, I ended up at the state library from 1978. Page 2 it says explicitly, in addition to the duty of the grand jury at the bottom to hear evidence and decide whether formal criminal charges should be made, the grand jury also has the important power to make investigations. The grand jury, on its own initiative, may on rare occasions subpoena witnesses to appear or compel the production of documents, including corporations. This type of investigation is thereafter reported to the court in what is called a presentment or a report. Now, this already occurs in other states. In California, notably, they have civil grand juries that investigate government. But the problem is, currently, our county attorneys are not informing the grand jury of their actual power to do this. And I've gone there. It's just down 1 block away when they're reporting for grand duty service 2 days a month in Merrimack County. But it's difficult when you're competing against a entrenched bureaucratic entity. Well, he's publicly elected, but in 8 out of the last 10 county races, 8 out of the last 10 counties last term, there was no general election competitor. So these are really not competitive races because you have to be a member of the bar to run. Unlike being a sheriff, you could just be me and run and have no law enforcement because it doesn't matter. The key to the sheriff is doing what the grand jury tells him to do via the investigations and the priorities they establish. Every 4 months they switch up, 23 people, and that's what I'm here to talk about. So if you guys want to pass this on to your reps, because as we have some in hand, I've been trying to get the Speaker of the House, I'm a former rep, there are no investigations that actually happen in this building. It's a fact, as Leah talked about. It's all smoke and mirrors. So I think we need to utilize our 11 county grand juries to investigate government and get to the bottom of what's really going on and where the money's going. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Keep up the fight.
Sir, did you want to come up and talk about your organization? We have one more speaker. What was your name? Larry Trent.
Hi, I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I went through all the things you guys talk about. I was molested as a kid at Chapel Beach Home, and I was sent to prison, all kinds of stuff like that. Domestic violence, which my family got split up, alcoholism, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, right now we're forming we formed it in 2003. It was called Protect Our Children. We're doing it again in Manchester, but we're doing it in a different way. In 2003, I attacked a child molester with a butcher knife and got 30 years in prison for doing that. He was doing 2 to 4 years for raping a 9-year-old girl 100 times, so I thought it was proper justice. Anyway, I haven't done anything like that ever again. I'm doing it a different way. I'm going to be working with the courts. There's a whole bunch of us involved. Only women are working for the organization. I'm just setting it up for my granddaughter, who's a nurse at the prison right now. We have a policy at the prison where we take in child molesters from all over the country, guarantee their safety as long as they pay the state of New Hampshire $100,000. That's been going on for years. A warden named Michael Cunningham, who was a friend of mine, started that program. When they parole, they don't go back to Oregon or California. They come right to Concord and Manchester. Why do we allow that to happen? That's all I have to say. We don't need support. We have plenty of money, but just back us up. Thank you.
And it was Protect Our Children?
Protect Our Children, Manchester.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All right. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day, and God bless you all.